Affairs here at USCIS. So our goal for today's engagement is to help supporters understand what they need to do, and of course to engage with all of you and provide helpful information. As Noreen mentioned, the Uniting for Ukraine process begins with a supporter who is based in the United States when they file the Form I-134, Declaration of Financial Support on behalf of a beneficiary. So we're going to answer as many questions as we can this afternoon, and there's certainly a lot to cover. So I thought what might be helpful is for us to point out some resources that you can all refer to later. So I'm going to go ahead, and I know on the screen there you can see, I'm going to go ahead and talk about a few things here. The first thing is our Uniting for Ukraine webpage. So if you haven't already, please do visit our landing page at USCIS on Uniting for Ukraine. You can see that website URL on the screen now. So you can find important information about the program, eligibility requirements for both the supporter and the beneficiary, and other resources. We've also recently added some frequently asked questions that we receive from various engagements. So thank you. Feedback on this is really important to us. And we'll continue to add to our frequently asked questions document over time to address new questions that we do hear about. As Noreen mentioned, we likely will not be able to get to all of your questions today. We'll see what questions come in that we can add to our frequently asked questions document and continue on from there. I also wanted to talk a little bit about a Uniting for Ukraine video. So right now we are in the production phase of a video, which will show you how to submit the Form I-134 online. Later in this engagement, we will be showing you how the online system works, and the video will be available for you soon. I wanted to share a few things on engagements. So we will be hosting more targeted local engagements, particularly in areas with higher volumes of the Form I-134 filings. So we're looking at New York City and Newark, New Jersey, parts of Illinois, such as Chicago, also Seattle, Washington, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and Los Angeles and Long Beach, California. So that we have local community relations officers in the field, and we're happy to match you up with them to discuss engagements if you're not already connected. You can certainly email us at the public engagement email address that you see there on the screen, and we can go ahead and help connect you with those individuals. Last, with any new initiative, I did want to talk about avoiding scams here for a moment. So we ask for your help to report any suspicious activities or schemes relating to Uniting for Ukraine. We do need your help to ensure we're protecting individuals who want to participate in this process. And you can find more about avoiding scams at the information there on the screen as well. So now to continue on, I would like to pass the microphone to Samantha Enochian. She's a policy coordinator with our Office of Policy and Strategy, and she's going to provide you with an overview of Uniting for Ukraine. So thank you, Sam.
Thanks, Carrie, and thank you all for being here today and allowing me to share your time. So when we first launched this new process using the US-based supporter model, we quickly saw the great amount of community support and generosity out there. This was really evident from the number of Form I-134 receipts we'd received from individuals who wished to be supporters. And my colleague Robert will discuss that a little bit more, but I thought it was very important to mention. So just looking at who can be a supporter under Uniting for Ukraine, a supporter is an individual, not an organization or entity, who holds lawful status in the United States or is a parolee or beneficiary of deferred action or deferred enforced departure. A supporter also must pass a security check and background vetting and demonstrate sufficient financial resources to receive, maintain, and support the individuals whom they commit to support for the duration of their temporary status in the United States, or their temporary stay in the United States. On this slide, we've included some examples of people who meet the supporter requirements. So just to briefly go through those, includes U.S. citizens and nationals, permanent, conditional, and temporary residents, non-immigrants in lawful status, asylees, refugees, and parolees, and holders of TPS, or temporary protected status. We have more information on the Uniting for Ukraine website, and that's uscis.gov/Ukraine. I also wanted to mention that supporters may join together and rely on organizational resources to demonstrate the ability to financially support a beneficiary or beneficiaries, and I'll be expanding on that shortly. So just looking at who can be a beneficiary under Uniting for Ukraine. A beneficiary is a U.S. citizen or their non-Ukrainian immediate family member who is outside the United States and who may be considered for parole under Uniting for Ukraine. Immediate family members include the spouse or common law partner of a Ukrainian citizen and their unmarried children under the ages of 21. Non-Ukrainian immediate family members must arrive in the United States accompanying their Ukrainian family member to be considered for parole under Uniting for Ukraine. Beneficiaries are eligible for the process if they have resided in Ukraine immediately before the Russian invasion through February 11th of 2022 and were displaced as a result of the invasion. So those who are eligible are Ukrainian citizens who have a valid, unexpired Ukrainian passport. If not a Ukrainian citizen, they must be an immediate family member of a Ukrainian citizen with a valid, unexpired passport and traveling with the Ukrainian citizen. Children under the age of 18 must travel with a parent or legal guardian in order to receive travel authorization under Uniting for Ukraine. The child must have a valid, unexpired Ukrainian passport or be included in their parent's passport. Unaccompanied children, meaning children traveling alone or traveling with individuals who are not their parent or legal guardian under the age of 18, are not eligible to be considered for parole under Uniting for Ukraine. Beneficiaries must have a supporter based in the United States who filed a Form I-134 on their behalf and who received confirmation from USCIS. Supporters must file a separate Form I-134 for each beneficiary they are planning to support, including minor children. Beneficiaries must complete vaccination requirements and vaccine attestations, pass vetting, and receive authorization to travel by U.S. Customs and Border Protection. Also, we refer to them as CBP. So speaking of CBP, I wanted to explain a little more USCIS's role with that of CBP in the Uniting for Ukraine process, because it's a little bit different than other parole programs with which you may be familiar. In Uniting for Ukraine, USCIS is focused on the US-based supporter. So we're reviewing the US-based supporter's financial ability and suitability to support the named beneficiary, a Ukrainian citizen and their immediate family members for the duration of their parole, which again may be up to 2 years. So when USCIS is determining whether to confirm or non-confirm a supporter, we are conducting security and background vetting on supporters, including serious public safety or national security concerns or red flags for exploitation or human trafficking risks. We're also looking at the supporter's financial ability to support the beneficiary during the duration of the parole period. If USCIS determines the supporter passes the security and background vetting and has the ability and suitability to support a named beneficiary, USCIS will then issue a confirmation of the Form I-134. The process then transitions to U.S. Customs and Border Protection, CBP, and they are the DHS component responsible for the vetting of the beneficiary, and they determine whether to authorize the beneficiary's travel to the United States to seek parole under Uniting for Ukraine. I also want to explain how USCIS is determining financial suitability of a supporter. USCIS is not looking for one fixed amount of money or assets that supporters need to be considered financially capable of supporting a beneficiary. Every potential supporter will have a unique individual circumstance, and USCIS will review the financial information the supporter submits about their assets and resources. We will also then use the federal poverty guidelines as a general guide in determining the supporter's financial ability to support the beneficiary for the duration of their parole. Multiple supporters may join together to financially support one or more beneficiaries. However, a named individual must sign the Form I-134. In this case, a supporter should file Form I-134 and include supplementary evidence identifying the other supporters and what they will provide. The supporter who files Form I-134 should provide a statement explaining the intent to share responsibility. These supporters' ability to support Ukrainian beneficiaries will then be assessed collectively. Similarly, if there's organizational support, this should be provided as part of the evidence submitted. Beneficiaries paroled into the United States under Uniting for Ukraine may file Form I-765, the application for employment authorization, and apply for a Social Security number. Beneficiaries may not be able to financially support themselves right away. Knowing this, supporters should carefully consider their commitment as a supporter before submitting Form I-134. The types of support beneficiaries may need include safe and appropriate housing, healthcare, transportation, obtaining initial basic necessities, assistance with filling out paperwork such as the EAD application or an application for a Social Security card, learning English, securing employment, and enrolling children in school. Before I'd end, I'd like to take a note that the U.S. government is committed to providing Ukrainians displaced as a result of Russia's invasion a full range of legal pathways. This includes temporary protected status for Ukrainian nationals in the United States, asylum, the U.S. Refugee Admissions Program, special situations and expedited processing in accordance with U.S. laws, and humanitarian parole. Regarding temporary protected status, on March 3rd, 2022, the Secretary of Homeland Security announced the designation of TPS, temporary protected status, for Ukraine for 18 months. So it's effective April 19th, 2022 through October 19th of 2023. To be eligible, individuals must be a national of Ukraine or a person without nationality who last habitually resided in Ukraine, have been continuously physically present in the United States since April 11th, 2022, and have been continuously residing in the United States since April 19th of 2022. Please note, though, that Ukrainian citizens and their immediate family members present in the United States will not be considered for parole under the Uniting for Ukraine process. For more information on that, USCIS will be hosting a national engagement on Ukraine TPS designation July 14th, 2022 from 2 to 3 p.m. Eastern. So we hope that some of you all are able to join that one. Just briefly, in terms of asylum, anyone who's physically present in the United States or presents at a port of entry may file for asylum. Each request for asylum is considered on a case-by-case basis according to the particular circumstances of the applicant. Please note Ukrainian nationals who present themselves at inspection at a land port of entry along the southwest border without a valid visa or without pre-authorization to travel to the United States through Uniting for Ukraine may be denied entry and referred to apply through the Uniting for Ukraine program. Also, the U.S. Refugee Admissions Program. This is an interagency effort involving several governmental and non-governmental partners, both overseas and domestically, whose mission it is to resettle refugees in the United States. And this is led by the Department of State's Bureau of Population, Refugees, and Migration. Regarding special situations and expedited processing, USCIS has announced a series of immigration flexibilities that may help people affected by extreme situations, including the invasion of Ukraine. USCIS is also proactively prioritizing the processing of certain applications and petitions filed by Ukrainian nationals. DHS will additionally suspend certain regulatory requirements for Ukrainian F1 non-immigrant students who are experiencing severe economic hardship as a direct result of the ongoing armed conflict in Ukraine. Lastly, since they are ineligible to pursue Uniting for Ukraine, children who are not traveling with a parent or legal guardian but are coming to the United States to meet a parent or legal guardian may instead seek parole through the standard Form I-131 application for travel document parole process. Thank you all so much for the opportunity to share additional information about some of the other legal pathways for eligible Ukrainians. Now I'd like to turn this over to Robert Mace, who has been the lead coordinator for Uniting for Ukraine.
Thanks, Samantha, and thank you everyone for joining today. So I'd like to give you a little bit of an overview of the online system that we've created for Uniting for Ukraine here at USCIS. So both in design and implementation, Uniting for Ukraine is an expedited process. USCIS has built new technical capabilities to facilitate this streamlined process using existing digital systems and services. In situations like this, having this capability means being able to respond to those in need very quickly and utilizing the online more efficient method. So to date, USCIS has received over 68,000 Form I-134s with the Declaration of Financial Support. We have completed review for about 58,000 of those. And as of today, we've issued more than 55,000 confirmations and posted more than 42,000 travel authorization notices to beneficiary accounts, which provides Ukrainians and their immediate family members the ability to travel to the United States. So Uniting for Ukraine is done completely online, and there are kind of three general steps that I'm going to cover. So the first is the US-based supporter. So that individual will file a Form I-134 through a USCIS online account for each eligible person they want to support. And this does include minor children, which is a question we've gotten fairly regularly. So every individual. So next, after filing, the supporter will receive a receipt notice. And then upon review, if the Form I-134 is sufficient, the supporter will receive a confirmation notice in their online account. And that is also true if the 134 is non-confirmed or if there is a request for evidence. So that moves us on to step two. So if the supporter's Form I-134 is confirmed, the beneficiary will then receive 2 email messages from USCIS at the email address the supporter provided on the Form I-134. So the first email is the confirmation notice, alerting them that an I-134 has been filed on their behalf and has been confirmed. The second email is the account notice, which will provide the instructions to the beneficiary for how to create a USCIS online account and how to link their case to that account. And these notices also contain the A number that is going to assigned to the beneficiary. So following the instructions, the beneficiary will then create an online account, link their case, and they will use their account to confirm and submit their biographic information, such as name, date of birth, country of birth, passport number, physical address. They can also make any corrections as part of that process. Next, they will submit their vaccination attestations. They'll also submit any minor eligibility attestations. And they also have the option to add travel group members. This is optional except for non-Ukrainian family members. But they will then submit the biographic information and the attestations for each group member that they choose to add. The beneficiary will then submit their information to U.S. Customs and Border Protection for review. Once this step is complete, I want to emphasize this, no edits can be made, even by USCIS. So it's very vital that beneficiaries review the information carefully and make any necessary corrections at this time. That moves us to step 3. So the information will go to CBP, and CBP will review it, and then we'll determine whether to authorize travel. The travel authorization notice will be posted to and viewable through the beneficiary's online account. I will note that the supporter will not be able to access or view the beneficiary's travel document. The travel authorization is valid for 90 days, and beneficiaries are responsible for arranging their own travel to the United States, and they will be considered for parole by CBP at the port of entry. Once paroled, beneficiaries will complete their post-travel attestations through their online account, just as they did previously. So while USCIS is confirming, as you heard from the numbers earlier, most Form I-134 filings, we have noticed some forms are missing particular pieces of information or evidence, particularly financial evidence. I want to emphasize that for USCIS to conduct a full and quick review of the Form I-134, we really need the supporter to submit sufficient and legible evidence. We've also noticed a number of typos related to the beneficiary. I think there's a number of questions in the chat that relate to those, such as misspelled names or incorrectly entered passport numbers, email addresses, passport country of issuance, things like that. Again, we want to emphasize that supporters should double check this information, look at it very carefully, understand it can be difficult. There can be anxiety, and it's other pieces of information. Sometimes it can be in a different language, but we would ask that people review documents carefully and submit it as clearly as possible. Beneficiaries should also review this information very carefully before testing, as I mentioned a minute ago. And they should especially ensure that this information exactly matches what is on their passport. So we are committed to kind of identifying these kinds of issues and trends and errors that we're seeing, and we'll continue to attempt to mitigate them through providing information on our website, alerts within the accounts, and working with our partners to kind of understand the issues that some people may have. And with that, I will turn it over to Leah and Janet to kind of walk you all through what the process actually looks like for users.
Thank you, Robert. We're so happy to show you how our online account works and how the U.S. supporters complete this form. There's several ways to access the USCIS online account. On our uscis.gov homepage, there's an activity tile called File Online. This section has information on filing online and where to get started creating an account. And on the top right, there's a sign-in link where users can sign into their account if they have one, or create a new account if they don't have one. So for the sake of time today, I won't review the steps to create an account, but one thing to keep in mind is that each account must have a unique email address, and this means the U.S. supporter must have their own account and email address, and their Ukrainian beneficiary must also have their own account and own email address. There's three types of accounts in My USCIS. The applicant account, which is what individuals can use to submit immigration forms on their own without an attorney. This is the type of account that U.S. supporters and Ukrainian beneficiaries need to create and to participate in Uniting for Ukraine. There's a representative account where legal representatives can submit forms on behalf of clients and submit Form G28 electronically. At this time, attorneys cannot submit Form I-134 for clients. And lastly, we have an H-1B registered account where prospective employers can register for the H-1B selection process. All of these accounts are unique and they each serve different purposes. So I'll focus on the applicant account today because this is the account used to submit Form I-134. Quick tips here for anyone who creates an account. When someone creates their account, they should absolutely save their backup code and their password reset answers to avoid frustration later. If someone forgets their password, they can reset it themselves, but to do that, they have to remember their password reset questions and answers. If someone loses access to their email address or cell phone, they can use the backup code in place of the one-time verification code. One of the most important points to note is that U.S. supporters and beneficiaries must check their form carefully for typos and errors before they submit. Unfortunately, this form has a high rate of errors. Spelling mistakes such as name, date of birth, passport number, and most importantly, the beneficiary's email address are all entries that must be 100% accurate. The beneficiary email address is very critical because if Form I-134 is confirmed, the beneficiary will receive 2 emails from us. If the email address is incorrect, the beneficiary will not be able to create an account and link the confirmed Form I-134 to their account. These errors should be corrected before the beneficiary attests to the information. Very important. After a user has created an account, they're directed to this web page. There are 4 activity tiles showing the things they can do in their online account. They can add a paper case, file a form online, enter a representative passcode if they're working with a legal representative, and the last option is a tool we have to verify someone's identity. To show you what U.S. supporters do, we'll select filing a form online. Okay, and now I'll hand this over to Jana Evans for the live demo.
Jana, you're muted. You're muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry about that. So this is the sign-in page for the online account. I already have this loaded with my email address and my password. I am in a test account, but it looks just like the experience you would have in your own account. So I'm going to go ahead and sign in. I'm going to enter my one-time verification code that I would ordinarily get on my phone or an email. And here I'm in my account. This is how all our accounts look like. I do have a draft of an I-134 that I'm going to show you. And I just wanted to show you to get started, you would go up here to the top and you have this option here, file a form online. And you would just select here, file the I-134. So that's how you get started. But I'm going to go ahead and go back to my draft case. And I wanted to note here, this is how all of our online forms are set up. We have the title of the form on the top left, and then we have vertical navigation on the left side or the left rail. We always start with a bookend we call getting started, and we always end with review and submit. And then the internal portions of the form, these different sections, are unique from form to form because every form has a different purpose. So we do apply, we have conditional logic that is built into the form. So questions that are asked later are based on how you answered questions previously. So we want you to go through the form from beginning to end. Don't skip anything, fill out as much as you can. And the first thing is the basis for filing. There is only one basis for filing for this form. So you would just select that. I'm not using a preparer. And then the next section, the next two sections are about the supporter. The sections that we talk about later about the beneficiary look a lot like what we're talking about now, but they're directed at the information related to the beneficiary. So I'm going to select this. And for our purposes today, I am a man, Thomas Smith. I've not used any names, other names since birth. I have my contact information already loaded. I must be in the United States to be a supporter in this program. So there's no foreign addresses allowed. I've indicated my address and also that this is my mailing address and my physical address are the same. I've indicated my date of birth. I was born in Argentina, so I'm a naturalized citizen. It asks for my immigration status. I indicate I'm a US citizen and my online account number. I have previously submitted a case in this account, so my online account number automatically populates. And for this program, I would say most of the beneficiaries are related to the sponsor, but it's not absolutely required. So in this case, I just put not specified. I indicate I'm employed full-time. My employment, I am currently employed as an operations manager at FedEx. I indicate the address in Buffalo. And then the form is getting into the details of my financial suitability. And it asks for the number of dependents I have. So I'm married and have 2 children, so I'm listing 3 dependents. So myself, I'm 1, but I have 3 dependents. My total income I'm reporting is $80,000. So the form It's, it's pretty straightforward. It's the form saves when you move from one section to the next or one subsection to the next. Anytime I hit the word next to the little button, the form automatically saves my data. So this is asking if any of my income comes from illegal gambling or illegal drug sales. That's a big no. Means tested public benefits, no. And do I intend to make specific contributions to support the beneficiary? I'm saying no because I'm going to provide all their support. Okay, so here's where the form gets more detailed, and we would like for the sponsors, the supporters, to be kind of organized and methodical about how they enter this information. So I'm going to be asked to provide information about my assets. So I'm going to go here and add an entry, and I'm going to say that I am the asset holder. And then the type of asset, let's say a savings account. What is the cash value in US dollars? So I'm going to say $5,000. And that's saved. And so you can see it right there. I'm going to add another. I'm going to say that my wife, Jenny, is the asset holder. And she has a savings account, let's say checking account. And again, all the value of assets must be in US dollars. Even if the asset is in another country, the value of it must be stated in US dollars. Just do a couple more. This interface actually works, really, really well. I'm going to say I have a 401k. So here I have a retirement or educational account. You can see all these different. So there's bank accounts, annuities, stocks, bonds, 401k, real estate, or personal property. So I'm going to say that one, and I'm going to say I have 125,000 saved in that. And then the last thing, I'll say I have a home that is in my name. I'm going to say right here, real estate holdings. I'm going to say the house is worth $100,000. So the total of all of these added up is $235,000. I'm going to say I've not previously submitted form I-134 on behalf of a person other than for the person I'm doing this one for. The way that you would add dependents is you start with your primary beneficiary, you go ahead and submit everything, and then if they have a child or a dependent, you would submit another I-134 for, let's say, the husband and the children. So you would, for the second one you submit, you would answer yes to that question. Okay, so now we're in the beneficiary section. So here, remember, we were getting started. These two sections, I'm answering information about myself, my assets, my family, my dependents. I'm the supporter. Here, I'm transitioning to information about the beneficiary. So these next two sections are about the beneficiary. So I have Olga Maria Melnick. She's not used any other names. Her phone number. Okay, important. I've got Olga Melnick U4U@gmail.com. I have to make sure that that is her email address because the notices, if the case is confirmed, the notices are going to go to that email address. So if I mess it up, she's not going to be able to access the documents that she needs to access everything. So that's kind of a deal breaker. So just pay close attention, take some time. I know the high error rate is due to so much stress and anxiety, but just try to be careful here. Take your time. You can save this, leave, go have a cup of tea, come back with fresh eyes. You don't have to do it in one sitting. In fact, I mean, I have this pre-prepared. It may take 2 sittings, but you can leave it and come back. It's not going to go away. I've indicated that Olga is currently in Poland, in Zabki, and that this is her mailing address and her physical address. I've indicated her date of birth, that she's born in Kyiv, and her country of birth is Ukraine. So this part is all pretty basic that you'll have, that she's a woman, she's married. And again, there has to be a Ukrainian citizen or national in the group. So I'm indicating that she is Ukrainian and that her passport was issued by Ukraine, and this is the passport number, passport expiration date. This is another one. Be very careful that you look at the actual passport number, not some kind of, you know, serial number or other kind of things. So we've seen scenarios where the supporter puts the passport number in wrong, and then the beneficiary didn't quite catch it, and so that creates problems. So to make sure this sails through, be very careful, double check your work. So the passport number, her date of birth, she doesn't have an A number, and then her anticipated period of stay in the United States. I said July 1st, and I said no end date. I said that she has 2 dependents, a husband and a child, and how much income will the beneficiary's dependents contribute? I just said $2,000. As Robert mentioned, the beneficiaries will be eligible to apply for an employment authorization document when they arrive. And so eventually they will be able to have jobs and help support themselves, but not initially. Okay, and then the same questions, does any of the beneficiaries' income come from illegal gambling or illegal drug sales? No. Does it come from any means-tested public benefit? No. Okay, so now we're getting into the same kind of thing where the I provided as a U.S. supporter, I listed my house, my 401k, same thing for the beneficiary. So I have just 3 documents or 3 examples I'm going to upload. Olga. Okay, I'm going to say that Olga has a savings account and there's $2,000 in it. I'm going to add another one for her husband. And he also has a savings account that has $4,000. And then the last thing I'm going to say that they have some personal property. Go down here, sorry, personal property, and I'm going to say it is 2,000. So all 3 of those assets combined is a total of 8,000. Okay, now we come to actually the most important section. So cases are going to go through the process smoother if the U.S. supporter is providing everything that we ask for. And the form, this online system, I mentioned the conditional logic, it is based on my earlier answers. It's going to prompt me to provide evidence based on what I said I had before. Now here's a, this is required, a bank officer statement. So here in the evidence section, I'm going to be asked to provide evidence and upload documents for each of these sections, each of these highlighted here. This evidence uploader accepts these file formats. We can't take anything that's password protected. We can't take a Word document or a BMP file, just JPEG, PDF, or TIFF files. If your documents are in a foreign language, we do need an English translation. You can do 5 documents at a time. And just keep in mind, try to keep the names of the documents very straightforward and don't use the automated name, you know, like, I don't know, 123 doc. Try to give it a name, for example, naturalization certificate, passport, house deed, bank letter, things like that, rather than the automated name, because that makes it easier for our officers to identify things. And then we recently increased the file size to up to 12 megabytes per document. So that's quite sizable. So I'll show you how that works. So I'm being asked here for a bank officer statement. This is on bank letterhead that indicates when my bank account was opened, the amounts deposited over the last year, and my current balance. I'm going to go here. And I have my evidence already set up here. So I'm going to go bank letter. And here I'm going to tag it so I can see it's uploaded. I'm going to give it a tag. So here's the bank officer statement. So I'm going to go next. And so each time I hit that next button, all the information saves. Here is requesting information from my employer, the date and nature of my employment, how much I'm paid, and whether it's temporary or permanent. Same file requirements. I'll go here, and I'm going to upload a letter from FedEx. Again, I'm going to tag it, employer statement, and hit next. So it takes a little bit of time, but it's really well organized. It's real smooth. I forgot what I was going to, oh, the file, sorry, income tax return. Okay, so I'm going to go here and pick my income tax return. And tag it. I don't have any bonds. Okay, so I'll show you what a yellow alert looks like. A yellow alert is a prompt in the account that is indicating the account would like me to upload something or add something, but it's not required. It's a soft stop. It's a suggestion. Sometimes you'll see a red alert where this bar here on the left is red, and that is a hard stop. That means you're not going to be able to submit the form unless you correct that error. So in this case, I don't have any stocks or bonds, so I'm just going to kind of override that, and I'm just going to hit next. So here's proof of my immigration status. I'm going to go here again and pick my naturalization certificate. Almost done with the evidence. And then a proof of assets of individual agreeing to financially support the beneficiary. So I'm going to also upload my house deed, which I've got right here. So I'm going to say assets, and then last thing, I'm going to provide a here's my pay stub. One more, I'll do the, okay, I think we're done. All right, so so I satisfied that evidence requirement. Here's a section where if you want to write a narrative, we allow 500 words, free text, you can add more information. I'm not going to do that. And here I'm in the review and submit section. There is no filing fee for this form, and I'm good to go. I've got a green alert, which means they found no alerts. There's nothing that needs my attention. I'm going to go ahead to review it. And this form is, with all that I've entered, it's pretty long, but there's a few ways that you can review your draft before you submit it. You can print it. You can view a draft snapshot, which will be a PDF, or you can do a long scrolling view. So I'm just going to review all this. There, it's coming up to my information. I don't have a repairer, my address, my country of birth, where I work, my assets. So it's quite long, but you have a few different ways that you can look at it before you submit. And here's information about the beneficiary, Olga. So it's basically everything that I entered. And at the very end, it has the all the evidence I uploaded. So the bank letter, employment letter, tax return, everything that you just watched me upload is there. So I'm going to go next. And I have to kind of attest that I understand English. I understood the questions. I understood the answers to the questions. And this is another required statement saying I certify that I'm going to support this beneficiary. So I'm going to sign. All you do is type the name. And then I'm ready to go. I'm going to submit. So at the end of that, I'm going to go here and see how far along in the process my case is. All right, great. All right, so here's my case card for the I-134. I have previously submitted an I-90, but I'm going to focus on this one. So here you would see the PDF of your I-134 form, which you could save and download if you want to. Here's your receipt number. Here's the date that I submitted it. And there are 3 tabs here with the within the case card. And you would have a case card like this for every person that you submit one of these forms for. So you could end up having, you know, 3 or 4 or even more. So case status is the current status of the case. Since I just submitted it, it's just basically it's been received. This case status marries up, it's exactly matches our case status online webpage. One of the benefits of the account is that it will have case history, so which is not on our case status public page. So the advantage here is that you'll be able to see the case as it progresses. So we just have a receipt date here, but as things move along, there will be other receipt dates showing in the future. So that gives you a sense of the progression. And then the last thing, which is I think extremely powerful, is the Documents tab. So here I can see all those documents that I uploaded, and notices will load right here. So if we were to issue a request for evidence, that would be posted right here. The confirmation notice would be posted here. So this is a very powerful section, and it's important to check it often. Here I wanted to touch on if there's anything that you feel that you missed or you might have made a mistake, you can upload unsolicited evidence. So this is at the bottom of the Documents tab. You can upload additional evidence. Let's just see, I'll go ahead and see what I've got here. So let's say I want to upload another bank statement. Didn't like my format. Anyway, that's how you would upload your any additional evidence. Usually that would be like a clarifying letter, or and I'll get to in a minute. If the passport number ends up being wrong, incorrectly submitted by the U.S. supporter, the beneficiary can upload unsolicited evidence using this same tool in their account to get that corrected, and I'll talk about that in a minute. And then I think that the last thing that I want to talk about is the secure messaging. So once you have submitted a case online, you have access to a secure inbox that is within the privacy of the account. So it's secure, it's reliable, it's trusted, and you can send a message. So you can say, I need help with a case already filed online, and I would have to pick whether it's the I-90, which of course wouldn't be the case, or the I-134, and then write my message. And these messages route to officers at our tier 2 location. These are officers who've been to the Immigration Academy. So that is how the messaging feature works. I think that that's about it. So I'll transition back to the slides. Let's see here. I think Leah, yeah, thank you. Great. So as I mentioned, if we do issue an RFE, a request for evidence, for example, if you submit maybe one document showing your assets, we may want a little bit more. So this is where you would see it in the account. You would either get an alert, you would see the request for evidence in your documents, and you can submit your response this way. What's really great about doing this through the account is that once you upload your evidence, it's there, you can see it, and your case status automatically updates immediately.
Hi everyone, this is Noreen. Sorry, Jana.
Yeah.
I just wanted to check in real quick with Josh, who's our producer behind the scenes. I just want to make sure we're not experiencing any technical issues. Josh, can you let me know? So if folks can just give us a couple of seconds to figure out the technical piece, we may be back on track. Josh, can you confirm? perfect. I think we're ready to go. Okay, Jana, if you wouldn't mind
Okay,
continuing. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. I could take a breath. All right, so another, I just showed you this in the account, but this is what we call our authenticated web form or secure messaging, where you can pick from about 7 different options and write your question in this section right here. Next slide. So when Form I-134 submitted by a U.S. supporter meets the requirements for supporting a beneficiary, we call it a confirmation. This is because the purpose of Form I-134 is to establish the ability to provide financial support, which we confirm. We don't call it an approval notice. The sponsor, or sorry, the U.S. supporter will receive a confirmation notice in their account, and then the beneficiary will receive 2 emails. One email will have the confirmation notice, and the next email will have an account notice that has instructions on how to create an account and how to add their confirmed case to their account. After they create their account, the beneficiary will see this same onboarding page that you're looking at now. Looks just like what the U.S. supporter filled out, but instead of selecting file a form online, they're going to select add a case to your account. At this point, the beneficiary will enter the receipt number for their confirmed Form I-134, and the receipt number can be found on the confirmation notice and the account notice that we sent them. And this is where the beneficiary is going to link that confirmed I-134 to their account. The beneficiary will enter down here the online access code and their date of birth. So we have a couple levels of security there, and with that, the form is kind of imported into the account. If the beneficiary needs the online access code delivered again, there's a web link which they can ask for that account code to be generated again. All right, so this is the these are the set of instructions for the beneficiaries. They have 5 things that they need to do: confirm their biographic information, complete the vaccine attestations, complete minor eligibility attestation, add travel group members if they have any, and then submit to CBP. Looking at the time, so I'm going to kind of go through fairly quickly. So this is what the confirmation of their biographic information looks like. This is already pre-populated from what the U.S. sponsor entered. So they need to look and make sure that this is right. So this was automated, but this is beneficiary first, beneficiary last. This is sort of kind of mock data. But this is their opportunity to review it, confirm it, or correct it. If it's wrong in some way, they should, make any corrections. Normally the passport number would, actually in the beginning of the program, the passport number, we didn't have a way to fix it. We do now. So if the beneficiary's passport number is incorrect, they click this little box to indicate my passport number is incorrect. And then the next slide will talk about what they need to do to get that corrected. They cannot change the basis of filing, the receipt number, alien number, or passport issuing country, and they also need to indicate where they physically live. So to correct the passport number, they need to do this before they confirm that all that biographic information is correct. Once they confirm it, it's too late. So this is like right when they see that biographic information, this is when they would need to correct it. So they would upload a picture of their correct passport, showing the correct passport number. So they can take a picture of it, scan it, anyway, upload it to their computer, and it's helpful to have it, give it a logical name like correct passport number. Then upload it as unsolicited evidence like I showed you before. Then send us a secure message from your inbox indicating that you submitted evidence to correct your passport number. So those 2 steps, upload the unsolicited evidence with the picture of your passport and send us a message. This will go into a queue and we will respond with a message in your inbox. Do not submit your attestations to CBP until you get a response from us. If you go ahead and submit, it will submit the incorrect information and will cause issues. Okay, so this is the box to pay attention to. After, remember, there's four sections where you're checking everything, you're attesting to things. Each section, if you hit yes, I'm finished, you're done with that section. So here's confirmed biographic information. Once I hit yes, I'm finished, I cannot go back. I'm done with that section. It cannot be undone. So I'm going to say yes, I'm finished, and go on to the next section. This is where I attest to having required vaccines before I travel, which is measles, polio, and COVID-19. There are exceptions, valid exceptions to each vaccine requirement for each type of vaccine, depending on the situation. But one of these radio buttons has to be selected. And this is what the COVID-19 attestation looks like. The next section is where you basically acknowledge and promise that children under 18 they can't travel alone under Uniting for Ukraine. They have to be traveling with and in the guardianship of their parent or their legal guardian. So these have to be, these 3 check marks, they have to be checked. So this is just sort of an alert to ensure that everybody's aware of this requirement for minors. Okay, next slide. You also have the option to add travel group members. Each person that you add must be the named beneficiary of a confirmed I-134. And if you add, let's say in Olga's case, she's going to add Ivan, her husband, and her daughter. She's going to have to do all the attestations for each of them. And we do now have a tool where the beneficiary, if they added somebody in error or they're not decide not to travel together, they can remove a travel group member by clicking on that. Okay, so once everything, so each of those sections you're going to be prompted, is everything good to go? And then you're going to say, yes, I'm finished, yes, I'm finished, until you get to this very last one. And then when you hit yes, submit to CBP, this is going to go to Customs and Border Protection, where they're going to review everything and determine your eligibility for the travel document and parole. So after the case is submitted to CBP, this is what kind of what the case card looks like. It's a little bit different than what the sponsor, the supporters information looks like, but there's 3 tabs down here, and this is where case status is, and this is where notices would be. So this is the point where the beneficiary is going to wait. In general, we're processing these cases fairly quickly. There are instances where, let's say, there's more than 10 beneficiaries in a case. That would take a little bit longer, and sometimes if it's a non-Ukrainian, that can take maybe a little bit longer, but we're moving these very quickly. As Robert mentioned, we're pretty current with these. So when a decision is made, whether it's an approval or not, Customs and Border Protection will post it to the account, or the decision notice will be posted to the account, and that will be in the notices tab. So check back often. And if CBP authorizes travel, as I said, it will be in the notices section. Travel authorization notices for different travel group members may come at the same time, or they may come a little bit later. Don't despair. You know, try to be patient, but they are generally processed as a batch, and we try to get them processed at the same time. So just keep checking for your notices in that notices tab. Almost done. Once the beneficiary arrives in the United States, they need to complete some post-arrival attestations. One is the tuberculosis screening, and you would complete that screening and attestation online here. So they need to do it for themselves, the primary beneficiary does, and then they need to do it for their travel group members if they have any. And the last thing, this is the web form that we have to help people with technical issues. And this is the link, and we'll post it at the end for everybody to review. And I believe that's it. And I'm going to, Noreen, turn it back to you.
Great, thank you, Jana. That was really helpful. I know we don't have a lot of time for questions, but I do hope that today's presentation covered or answered a lot of your questions. What I'd like to do before we go into the Q&A session real quick is just to point you to the resources slide. Leah, if you can advance that slide. Jana had mentioned the link to get technical help. We've been mentioning a few other links during our presentation, so I've included that here in our resources slide. Also links to the Department of Homeland Security's Uniting for Ukraine page. We also have some links to the Office of Refugee Resettlement web pages. I wanted to just quickly note that on May 21, Congress approved funding for Ukrainian parolees. So ORR has put out a fact sheet, so please go visit their website and their resources for you. So let's go ahead. We have about 9 minutes, so let's go ahead and take as many questions as we can. Thank you for your thumbs up and telling us which questions you want us to prioritize. And I see that we have 25 thumbs up for the question that Steve had submitted, so I'm going to read that out loud. The question is, we understand that a Uniting for Ukraine refugee has access to health insurance through Medicaid. Our question relates to the event of catastrophic illness or expenses that would not be covered by Medicaid. Is the sponsor expected to be responsible for those expenses not covered? And Samantha, I'm hoping that you can take this question, please.
Sure, thanks Noreen, and thank you Steve for that question. So just to kind of answer some of the examples of the types of support for beneficiaries supporters should keep in mind when considering their ability to support include receiving the beneficiary upon arrival in the United States, transporting them to initial housing, ensuring that the beneficiary has safe and appropriate housing for the duration of their parole, as appropriate, helping the beneficiary complete necessary paperwork such as the employment authorization form, social security card, and any other services for which they might be eligible. Most applicably, ensuring the beneficiary's healthcare and medical needs are met for the duration of parole, and as appropriate, assisting the beneficiary when accessing education, learning English, securing employment, and enrolling children in school. So hopefully that just serves as a reminder of what the beneficiaries might be asked to support.
Great, thank you, Samantha. I appreciate your help there. Taylor submitted a question. We have 21 votes for that one. We are receiving many reports of I-134s that are not being adjudicated for 4 to 6 or more weeks, despite multiple inquiries via messages, calls, etc. Therefore, people are choosing to refile the I-134s, often with success, in just a couple of days. Is there anything wrong about doing this? Robert, could you please help answer this question?
Sure. So there are many reasons why reviewing the Form 134 might take longer than the average processing time. As I mentioned earlier, insufficient financial evidence or financial evidence that might be scanned that the reviewer had questions about, missing proof of status, illegible documents, things like that are all common reasons that delay review. There are a few things that refiling will fix. I think anecdotally, if some individuals did have success after refiling, that was probably coincidence. Refiling can actually delay review further and slow the overall process because it requires additional work for the reviewers to identify duplicates and ensure and look to see if something had changed in a subsequent filing, if there was a reason for it. So it can actually slow the process. If you are filing a duplicate, it would be helpful to attach a statement explaining why you're refiling and any corrections that have been made on that one to help reviewers, be able to identify which one should proceed forward. Yeah, there are a number of reasons, and there are a few things that refiling, unless explicitly instructed to do so, will help.
Great, thank you, Robert. To our speakers, I know we have some background conversations about possibly extending to 5 minutes. Let me know if that's a possibility. I know our attendees have to also probably drop off, but if we can, I'll let you know here in a little bit. But we'll see if we can extend this engagement by 5 minutes. So the next question I want to take is from Constantine. Constantine, thank you so much for submitting your question. 21 votes for you. CBP travel authorization granted via U4U, Uniting for Ukraine, has a validity period of 90 days. Some beneficiaries are asking if this term can be extended as they struggle to put their families together within that time interval. And if yes, what are the rules, the procedure to file an extension? Samantha or Robert, can you help me answer this question, please?
I'm happy to take it, or we can rock, paper, scissors, shoot for it. But we're going to go ahead and share this question with CBP, and hopefully we can get a comprehensive answer from them. But for now, we just want to point out that the travel authorization approved by CBP is only valid for 90 days, and there's not currently an extension. Thanks, Noreen.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Samantha. Let me just go over to the new window. All right, 20 thumbs up for a question. If the I-134 applicant needs to submit an inquiry on their case or have a question, what is the correct contact method to do so? The contact center, and by the way, I've included the numbers and a link to the contact center on this resources slide. But going back to the question, the contact center is unable to handle Form I-134, and no service center or field office handles these cases. So nobody in customer service seems to know where to direct the inquiry. Kayla, I know we haven't seen Kayla yet. She is a part of our Public Services Division, and she could talk to this question. So Kayla, when you're ready.
Hi, everyone. So it all depends on the type of inquiry regarding the resolution of this case. So if someone has an issue with the account access or needs a password reset, they should use our online need help form, which is shown on this resource slide. Also, if someone needs to correct information, perhaps that was submitted in error by their supporter on the Form I-134, they should send us a secure message using their online account. If they have general questions or inquiries regarding the status of the I-134, we encourage individuals to call the USCIS contact center at 1-800-375-5283 or send a secure message using their USCIS account.
Great, thank you, Kayla. That was really helpful. A few of us can stay on just a little bit longer. Again, I'm not going to extend it more than 5 minutes. So if folks can hang on, that would be great. And we'll do our best to answer as many questions as possible. I'd like to take this next one from Chelsea. Chelsea, thank you for your question. The question is, please clarify, what is a travel group member? Example, a sponsor submits an I-134 for a husband and a separate I-134 for his wife. Both the husband and wife will receive emails individually. Should they be added as travel members on each other's beneficiary accounts? I'm going to turn to my colleagues in the Digital Services Division to speak on this question, please. Jana, Leah, Darrell, and Katie, can one of you guys take this question? And you'll have to come off mute.
Hey, Noreen, I can take this question. Yeah, so for the travel group member question, if both the husband and wife are Ukrainian and they choose either to set up their own individual accounts, or one person can set up their account and add the spouse as a travel group member, This is optional. However, if one of them is not Ukrainian, then the spouse must set up the account and add the non-Ukrainian as a travel group member and provide relationship information for that individual.
Great, Darrell, thank you so much. And I just wanted to say Darrell is a product owner for the Digital Services Division. So thank you so much, Darrell, for being here. The next question is from Chuck. If an I-134 contains an incorrect email address for the beneficiary, what is the fastest way to submit the correction? Oh, it just moved. What is the fastest way to submit the correction and get USCIS to resend the account access email to the beneficiary? And Kayla, I'm not sure if this is for you or if this is for DSD. So whoever can take on this question, that would be great.
I'll be more than happy to take it. So if we want to correct an email address, the supporter should log into their account and navigate to the Notices tab and use the Unsolicited Evidence feature. And there they will upload a signed letter, and the letter has to be signed by hand, not electronically, just letting us know that the email address they entered on the form for the beneficiary was incorrect, and request that USCIS make the appropriate updates, including the beneficiary's email, and send the USCIS account notice to the beneficiary's correct email address. So just so you know, this letter has to contain the original email address that was included on the form I-134 and the new updated email for the beneficiary. And the supporter has to maintain or retain the original signed letter in the event that USCIS asks for the original at a later time. After that has been uploaded, then the supporter will navigate to the USCIS online account and send another secure message. They will log in, select the My Account dropdown, select Inbox, and then New Message, and then choose a case already filed online. They will select their receipt number for Form I-134, Declaration of Financial Support, from the drop-down menu, and then send us a message indicating that the beneficiary's email address needs to be changed and that the letter has been uploaded as unsolicited evidence. The email message also should include the original email address and the new one that was updated. At the back end, USCIS is going to review the request, make the appropriate updates, and issue the beneficiary a copy of that USCIS account notice using that new updated email address. And we will also update the supporter, letting them know that the issue has been resolved.
Okay, all right, Kayla, you know what, thank you for that great response. I'm actually going to skip to a question that I would like Carrie to answer, because that was a great response. And I think that we need to provide that to folks afterwards. So Carrie, I'm going to ask you, there was a question in here, will there be any outreach to sponsors or beneficiaries informing them of the benefits they may be eligible for? Oh, I'm so sorry. It was regarding outreach, if we are going to do additional, yes, outreach to beneficiaries and sponsors, informing them of their benefits and what they may be eligible for. So if you can take on that question, and maybe you can talk a little bit about how we can provide responses to some of these questions we can't get to, or some of these questions that we, can provide in other ways.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Noreen. So yep, the first part of the question that Noreen shared, it's a good one. So we are going to be continuing with engagements, and more specifically communication and outreach to both supporters and beneficiaries. So right now we're looking at conducting more local engagements. You may have heard me say that at the beginning of this engagement. So we're going to be doing more local engagements, and we have also been in discussions with the Office of Refugee Resettlement within the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services about these opportunities. We're also going to continue to publish helpful information on our website, and you can see the information on the resources page here in front of you. I would encourage you to also visit the Department of Homeland Security's website and the Office of Refugee Resettlement webpage as well. So that's with respect to that question that was submitted. The other thing I will say is we've got a lot of great questions here this afternoon, and they've been really informative to us. We've tried to share the ones that have got the high number of votes. But what we will be looking to do from all of the questions that we've received, as I mentioned at the beginning, really help us to inform our frequently asked questions document. So in the weeks ahead, we'll be taking many of these questions adding them in and providing responses and then getting them reposted on our website. I would say think of our FAQ document as a living document that we will keep fresh to keep you all updated and informed. Thanks, Noreen.
That's really helpful. Thank you, Carrie. And we have time for one question, Maria's question. We need to correct the passport information for a beneficiary. We uploaded a copy of the passport, a letter as unsolicited evidence. It's been a month, no changes. What should we do? I'm going to ask Janalia if you can help with this question.
A month sounds, I don't know. I'm kind of wondering what Robert thinks. So if I'm understanding right, I was reading the question. I'm not sure if that was the sponsor who was correcting the passport information or the beneficiary, but I believe it's the beneficiary that needs to upload the corrected information. Robert, do you have any other insight? Sorry to put you on the spot.
No, yeah, not at all. So yeah, the beneficiary needs to be the one to upload the information. And, one piece I don't see here is after doing that, you need to send the secure message if we follow those instructions, because otherwise, we're not going to know that you did upload that. And so if you send that secure message, then someone at the contact center will be alerted and they can make those changes. That's true. That's true with the other updates that you're making too. You really have to take the follow-on step to send the message. Otherwise, we don't see that automatically.
Okay.
That's really helpful. Thank you, Robert. Thank you, Jana. All right. So that concludes our event. Leah, if you could just advance the slide. I don't really have any concluding remarks, but I just wanted to say thank you so much all for being here today and being committed to learning more about Uniting for Ukraine. If you have any additional questions or feedback, please email us at public.engagement@uscis.dhs.gov. This email address was also on the invitation. I will be sending the links that we had on the resources slide out to you. And, we just, again, wanted to say thank you so much for this partnership and for being interested in learning about Uniting for Ukraine. Thank you all for being here and have a great day. Take care.